What is going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back with a brand new episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Last time we were on, we had to sit through possibly one of the hardest scenes in anything, really. We found out that why the child welfare services said wait and see before was because back in 1977, she lied before about her stepdad, and after that she had a meltdown, a breaking point, and because of that, Kechi also had his own breaking point, and now he's going to murder his Sadako's uncle. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Check out the tips. Emergency. June 18th, 1983. Abuse issues regarding Sadako Horijo urgent. We propose that Sadako Horijo must be taken into immediate custody based on the items below. 1. Family situation. Life with an adoptive father who recently returned to him as already turned disastrous, and she is currently subject to unbearable physical and mental abuse from the father. 2. Child Consolation Center's response. A child probation officer was dispatched yesterday on the 17th from the prefecture welfare office, but because of the 77 case, changed to continue coaching and cautionary action. Unfortunately, the Constitution Office head does not properly understand the situation. 3. Status of concerned child. Child already appears to be suffering from an outbreak of something close to neurosis or manic depression. If her unstable, pubescent mind is negatively stimulated by stress, it will put her development of a healthy body and mind at risk. This cannot be allowed to continue from a humane standpoint. 4. Allegations made to the family court. We propose, based on the above items, that Sadako Hoijo should immediately be taken into protective custody. She should be secured temporarily under emergency allegations to the family court under Article 28. We request emergency coordination between all related agencies. Interesting. D23, number 44. This is the report from 77. Children with Special Needs, General, D23, number 44, 1977. Yeah. Child name, Sadako Hoijo. Residence, Himizawa Village, Shishiborn. Consolation circumstances. Telephone OS from child of child abuse. Abuse situation. Child claims she is being physically abused by her adoptive father. Family structure, marks abusers. Adoptive father, real mother, older brother, child in question. Note, adoptive father and real mother entered family registry in 19. Child is the daughter of the mother's previous husband. Child Consolation Center's response. On the day of the child's telephone consolation, the center called the child's school and asked of their situation. On that day, the child welfare officer on duty visited the child's house and conducted an interview. The adoptive father sincerely listened to instruction and agreed to take child raising workshops in the city from now on. As part of his suggested coaching, the center will continue to observe the situation. Other notes. As a result of numerous consolation sessions at the city's education consolation office regarding the child, we learned there was a high possibility the cause of the child's excessive distrust towards her adoptive father was the result of a lack of communication. The abuse she claimed hadn't actually taken place. She had made a false report to distance herself from her adoptive father. It was a note when told by the duty on duty at the time. The problem appeared to be more with the daughter. Chief Investigator F of the city's Education Consolation Office said that most of her stories of abuse were likely fabrications. They decided to shift the focus of their coaching to the child. Be cautious not to take everything the child says as truth. Shit. God damn it. God damn it. Let's continue on. Let us see what happens next. Mion and the others having to settle for the Higurashi festival or something invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. The first thing I did when I got back was to take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat. It was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would not be getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force had the highest arrest rate in the world. It would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials where people brought up on false charges. At court, they considered whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. We just had to look at the indignation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult-to-solve incidents, involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff, but they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of the perfect crime. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes are skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oshiro-sama, I understood. They must have been the work of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods, those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oshiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make this decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes kidnappings involving disturbing original methods that made it into a newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she could always criticize them as having tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her.
これまでの推理小説の中で母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪？
うん。母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer.
そうね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になり得ないわね。
そっか。そりゃそうだよな。主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな。
Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. They were written so that you could get to the goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't do something so optimistic. It needed to be the be-all, end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということは圭一、 真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら。
Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned in impish way. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time, a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently she was really into it. Don't even become stories. What does that mean?
ケイチ、物語の最低構成要素は？
起承転結。
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。スタートの木がなかったらそもそも物語は始まらない。
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう。何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。推理がないなら解決もない。つまりこれが究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too, so I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just now.
そんな難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
そもそも発覚しない事件。
つまり、例えばよ、誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥でおじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。
うん。
そのおじいさんがある日斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人はじゃあおじいさんの息子ね。おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
What an extremely cheap plot. It was impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime.
でも圭一、そこはとてもとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い深い森の中。さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。おじいさんは元気だったって。
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
圭一、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら永久に木は訪れない。
The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんでジエンド。どう？こんな感じで。
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was making sure nobody ever knew he existed. There are thousands of crimes committed nearly every day, but how many of them truly come to light? Something to think about.
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in fear of Oshiwa-sama. When the night of Higurashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his own in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him after all. No one would care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I had just those filler things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him the night of Higurashi, so as long as I was standing in for Osho-sama, I only had 24 hours remaining. Sadako, just hang on for 24 more hours. Can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second, I know that. But please just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I had the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse, the same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable, but this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. You just needed to think realistically. The law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. In that case, a weapon with more reach, like a staff, would be far more advantage. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you killed him, the end result was the same. So what's a staff like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful, and also immediately portable? By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal baseball bat can be as a weapon. A special note is the fact that you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun, playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. Can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously, as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went into the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of a strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, desks creep about of their own accord, wicking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped onto a place like that, would the desk in their surprise fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive?
バカバカしい。
I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day.
あった。北条。間違いない。
If one person has one locker, then why would only Sadako have two? I made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no one could hear, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I had been interested, so till now I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been there. The bad scrape. I opened the locker and a stench of mold and sweat wafted off like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Himizawa fighter's uniform. In it, the one Satoshi used, the metal bat. Yes, this was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. This murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my wool. It was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Sadako's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was white, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There is no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now I just need to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility that someone would see me bringing it home and thinking it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow will swim to none. Because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple hits in the head and worked around wire away. Okay, next, how to dispose of the corpse. This is so interesting. The damn metal baseball bat again. Really just planning out this entire murder, bit by bit. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. Ongafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now that appeared in the legends of Onagafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onagafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onagafuchi village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onagafuchi village. No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Osho-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and a weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. People say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in the swamp. And the criminal behind this dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too. It was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Sadako's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse, after a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they actually happened. There was no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer had drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him to pieces and hide him, but the preparation work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it? Was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. It had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Sadako's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of the back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yaguchi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Sadako's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to the maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Sadako's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taken by luring him here? The man made Sadako do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave Unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Higurashi festival. Would he go out for the festival, or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Sadako go to the festival? Sadako would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okayama police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come and pick her up immediately? You didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come and then hung up on him, he'd watch there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Sadako's slave was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Sadako would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Sadako to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Sadako to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. So Sadako should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of crime, but it naturally grew further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sound here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a wheel shovel from the storeroom at home. I managed with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if I was swift-shoed in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed her to get her to promise Sadako to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all of this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience, as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark crowds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Sadako looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking wildly. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have? All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned. But was the actual murder the most important part, what unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all of my perfectly concealed machinations, if I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it! After coming this far, you're pathetic, Ketchimarubawa. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth can hold a candle to. A day of murder, to kill someone, for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future wife on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease pre-made you, Ketchimarubawa. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me and dialed a short phone number, the kind you need to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver.
はい、園崎です。
あ、夜分遅くにすみません。ミオンか。
どちら様です？
俺だよ、刑事だ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her silvers out. Right, it's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks.
悪いな、こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
サトコのことなんだけど。
I heard her draw in a small breath from the other end.
サトコ、大変なことになっちゃったね。大丈夫かな？
The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice.
大丈夫なわけないだろ。お前も見ただろ。あれ。あんな擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて、俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし、サトコを救えたわけじゃないだろ。結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
え？遊ばせるって？
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかるだろう。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど。どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい 息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me.
どうして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Is Mion also planning to kill him? Because I'm down with that. Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
俺実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ、祭りには行けない。だから聡子、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあミオン、明日の夜だけ聡子を頼めないか。
I mean, it wouldn't be out of character for Mion. We did see last chapter. Mion took a long time to give her a reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was frustrated by emotions or something.
いや。
Huh? Was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying?
私嫌だって言ったじゃない。私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Man, what was she talking about?
綿流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。
What?
嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束守ってないから。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was cruelly now talking to someone other than me. I think she's referring to Satoshi. Wait. Did Satoshi do the exact same thing? The night of the Wanagagashi, sent Sadako over to Mion, murdered his aunt, ran away, then pinned it on someone else somehow? How is that possible, though? I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a daze.
あれからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけに、本当にずるい人。ねえ、あなた、サトシ君なんでしょう。
Know it.
ミオン、さっきから何の話だ。
When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
ごめん、なんでもないの。ちょっとケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
それひょっとしてサトシか。
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね、焦ったでしょ。
I had no idea how it happened, but I was pretty sure that last year on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Sadako to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replayed the same way I just did.
サトシ、 祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。代わりに私に聡子を祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
Something to do, huh?
その時サトシも言ったんだな。聡子を頼むって。
うん。言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんでちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival.
そうだったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Sadako.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
I wonder. Let's say Satoshi did murder his aunt, and he disappeared a days later. I think, here's my current theory right now, the reason why he disappeared was that he was taken away by the director's group. Because the director's group didn't want this murder to happen. That wasn't supposed to be the Higurashi murder. It had a couple connections here and there to the dam project, but all in all, it was just a murder. And so the director's group didn't like that, so they decided to find out who did it. They found Satoshi and took him away, most likely murdered him. It's going to be my theory for right now. The only one that makes sense to me, at least. And then an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi's make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident with their aunt was beaten to death. That's... could it?
サトシだ。
え？何が？
Last year, Sadako had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most, and on that night, in the name of Osho-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。あれサトシってことは考えられないか。
No, but that would mean... But then Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Sadako and went away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Sadako? It was unthinkable.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。
Funny you saying that, Kachi.
サトシには悪いけど。
A few days later, he disappeared. On Sadako's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cool day to have one away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, weighted by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi, you wish for a return to peaceful days with Sadako, and though he achieved it for a time, he had been steadily driven into a corner. And then, he wanted to at least hold out until Sadako's birthday, but finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he amassed to buy Sadako a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as a gift and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was a choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Sadako the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Sadako happy, he had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo, if the rumors are true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
Oh, she. And he'd been slowly driven into a corner by the repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit.
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
No, was right. The deviant had convinced, and the incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、ひなみ沢とは何の縁もない男だったって。もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it really was a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それに、サトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが、売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。
It was gone.
きっとサトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないでぬいぐるみを買うために使ったならサトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買ってそれを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて考えられない。
うん。だからわからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったならサトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic. It goes back to those words at the very beginning of this chapter. Crime, conspiracy, or coincidence. Maybe Satoshi did murder the aunt. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe it was the Sonozakis. Maybe it was the director's group. We don't know. All we have is bits and pieces of this puzzle, and we haven't put it together in the slightest.
ごめん。どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。サトコの件ね、安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え？本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、サトコを祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？サトシ。
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I didn't need it to make the phone call. Sadako had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood. A way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Sadako to enjoy herself. So they invited her. In the end, it was the same. But I was happy for that slight difference.
すまないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって。 本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a little bit.
じゃあ俺はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
うん。そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
じゃあ今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど、なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Quick. Satoshi Hojo, just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini, but now I didn't know what to think. Osho-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death and Satoshi's disappearance, and now me trying to carry out Osho-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Sadako being abused, then I'd been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi had been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now, the kind worthy of Sadako's love? I had never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I never felt that way before. Bit of a shorter chapter, but definitely a lot of setup for the next. So yeah, I'm probably going to end it here. I would continue on, but I don't want to like cut it like where things get really good. So I'm just going to end it here. If you guys enjoy this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, the like button. Want to tell me something, put it down in the comments below. Want to check out the Discord server I own in, or my Twitter, check the description below. Yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!